Thank you everyone for coming, and welcome to the San Ramon Valley Unified School District School Board Candidate Forum. This candidate forum is sponsored by the San Ramon Valley Council of Parent-Teacher Associations and the Danville, Alamo, Walnut Creek branch of the American Association of University Women. It will be moderated by the League of Women Voters. So my name is Kevin White. I am the Vice President for Legislative Advocacy for the SRV Council of PTAs. I'm also the parent of a student in this district and a member of our local school's PTA. We are very pleased to welcome this evening the 4 candidates for the SRVUSD board for areas 2 and 3. I know that I share the sentiment of you all in saying that we are extremely interested in hearing from them. The questions that the candidates will be asked are based on questions that were solicited from parents, guardians, caregivers, and students, from our local PTAs, and from community members, and submitted through our PTA website. In that way, they reflect the values, concerns, and hopes of parents and voters in our school district. For that reason, we will not be taking questions from the audience. But if you have a specific question for the candidates, I'm sure that they will stay after and be willing to answer it. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you the moderator for this evening, Janet Hoy of the League of Women Voters. Janet has been a member of the League of Women Voters for over 10 years and was previously the co-president of one of its state chapters. As part of the League of Women Voters, she has devoted her time to working on election issues and to helping to organize evenings like this. We are extremely grateful that you will be moderating this evening. And with that, I turn it over to you, Janet.
Can everybody hear me? Yes? Oh, cool. Thank you, Kevin. I just want to say, is it American democracy at work to be in a middle school multi-purpose room with the color guard and the Boy Scouts here? I mean, doesn't this just feel like democracy at work? So I'm super proud to be here today, and I'm going to be seated, but I thought I would stand just for sort of this beginning. Thank you all for being here. It's lovely to have a packed room. I see lots of moms and dads out there and other people interested in what goes on in our schools. And that, too, is an incredibly important part of being a local community member and being a citizen. The League of Women Voters of Diablo Valley is partnering with the San Ramon Valley Council of PTAs to conduct this forum. And I want to give you just a 30-second commercial on the League, just to make sure you all understand kind of who we are. We've been around for 104 years, and we started with getting the vote for women, yay, in 1920, yahoo, and we worked ever since to help people in the country register to vote, get engaged in our political process, and understand the issues at hand that are important in terms of voting. And we have a lot of them during this election, don't we? I also work on the explaining to people about the 10 statewide ballot initiatives. And some of those are kind of head scratchers, aren't they? It's like, what is up with this? So we work an awful lot on doing that. We are nonpartisan. And by nonpartisan, we mean that we never, ever, in 104 years, have opposed or supported candidates or parties. Not ever. We do, though, take positions on issues. We take positions on civic issues and issues having to do with good governance, et cetera. So although we don't support or oppose candidates, we take positions on a lot of things. I'm not taking a position on this race, just so you know. I don't live in this district. I can't vote in this district. I met these 4 ladies when we did this on September 30th, but I don't know any of them. So I'm going to do my best to be unbiased. I'm using questions, as Kevin said, that were generated by the community, and just conduct this forum in an open way so that you get to know how to place your vote November 5th or before. I assume most of you have probably received your ballots? Oh yeah, okay, good. So I wanted to spend just a second and tell you a little bit about what the Board of Education does, because sometimes that's really puzzling in terms of what exactly these folks do. So the Board of Education is a 5-person policy-making body which operates within the laws of the state of California and the Contra Costa County. Each board member is elected for a 4-year term. Terms of office are staggered with elections held every 2 years. The board is responsible for approving the district's budget and adopting all policies and curriculum. The authority of the board is as a whole, and no single board member may act as an official of the district, except when the board meets in a regular or in a special session. The Board of Education is elected to represent all of the people of the school district. In making its decisions, the board is guided by what is in the best interest of the entire district. Hope that makes sense. Okay, now kind of on with the show. So I think, Kevin, did you introduce our candidates? You have not. So we have 4 candidates here, 2 from District 2 and 2 from Area 2 and 2 from Area 3. We start with Shelley Clark, Karen Shumway, Laura Bratt, and Sukriti Sehgal. So I'm really glad that they're here. So I drew numbers to determine the order of the opening statements, the closing statements, and each of the questions. And since we did this about 3 weeks ago, I've reversed the order for this time from what we did last time. So in other words, we're asking people questions at random. Let's see. Each candidate will have a 2-minute opening statement, 2-minute closing statement, and 1.5 minutes to answer each question. And we have 2 timers here, Melanie and Vijay. And as the candidates get to the final 15 seconds in answering their question, the number 15 and a yellow sign will go up. That means get ready to conclude. And then when they are done with their allotted time, the red sign will go up and they need to stop. And if you don't, I will politely ask you to, or say, I'm sorry, but your time is up. Let's see. This forum is being recorded, so we ask you to please silence your cell phones. Out of respect for the hard work that went into providing this forum and to ensure that there is no improper use of the forum's content, we ask also that you do not film or record tonight's program. We also ask that you refrain from cheering or applause for any statements that are made in order to preserve the time to hear all of the candidates' comments. So I think that sort of goes without saying. Thank you in advance for your cooperation. Okay, so we're going to start with opening statements. And again, this was a random order. And we're starting with, this time, we're starting with Area 3. And it's 2 minutes for each of the opening statements. And we are going to start with Sukriti.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here today. My name is Sukriti Sehgal. I was born and brought up in India.
Hold on a second. No.
Good evening. Yeah, I think that's on. Good evening. Thanks for being here today. My name is Sukriti Sehgal. I was born and brought up in India, and my father was a professor and then a chancellor at a university, and my mother was an elementary school teacher. Having grown up in that academic environment, it helped me appreciate the importance of good education. I got my bachelor's in nutrition from India and came to UC Davis for my master's in food science. I worked in the corporate world, in the startup sector, and also as an adjunct professor at UC Davis. I've been in San Ramon for about 20 years now, and we have 2 girls, one in elementary and one in high school. This makes me the end user, and it helps me understand how the district policies are affecting us at the ground level. My priorities are building academic excellence, so our children are ready to go out into the world and compete. At present, they learn far less than their peers in other parts of the country and are nowhere close to students in other parts of the world. While students who will compete with our children for jobs are doing experiments to measure the refractive index of glass, our children are making TikTok videos. I support their mental and emotional health so they can grow up strong, resilient, and with high self-esteem. I want to foster true partnerships between parents, teachers, and students. Parents are increasingly feeling left out of the equation, and I want to fix that. I'm proud to represent the Asian American community, which is the majority community in Area 3. I want to represent the aspirations and expectations we have of our school system. We don't believe it's okay for students to be allowed to wear headphones and listen to music while in class when the teacher is teaching. It's not okay to have a designated smoking bathroom as part of the introductory school tour. The school board is elected so that the community can have a voice in how our schools are run and what our children are taught. I'm running to bring our voice so our children can get the education we hope to give them. Thank you.
Thank you, Sakriti. And now Laura.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. My name is Laura Bratt, and I am the current president of the San Ramon Valley Unified School District. I'm also running for re-election in Doherty Valley's Area 3. I'm a parent of 4 almost adults. I have 2 recent graduates of SRVUSD schools and twins who are seniors in high school. I see the intense pressure they face as they cross into their next chapter. And I want for them and for every child an exemplary education that prepares and inspires them to be lifelong learners, ensuring that they have the skills and confidence needed to navigate an ever-changing world. For over 17 years, I have worked tirelessly to help our public education institutions do just that. Whether on PTA boards as an Ed Fund president for a Mandarin immersion program, on various school site councils and steering committees, and now on the Board of Education, I know what it means to roll up my sleeves, get the work done, and affect change. I am proud of what I've been able to accomplish these last 4 years as part of a strong governing board, working hard to ensure that our district provides high-quality education in a safe and supportive environment. I have championed initiatives grounded in deep learning and innovation, social emotional well-being, and equity so that each and every child can learn and so they can thrive. My collaborative efforts have yielded significant achievements, including the development of our strategic directions, a steadfast and strategic move back to in-person learning post-COVID, the renegotiation of superintendent and assistant superintendent contracts to cap salary increases, greater transparency, communication, and accountability, and increased student voice, including a student board member and the implementation of Student Senate. These accomplishments reflect my dedication to our educational community. They highlight my passion for inclusive and supportive education for all, and they show the experience I will bring to the board with a second term. I'm a proven advocate for our students and their educational experience, and I would greatly appreciate your vote and your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Now we move on to Area 2, and we start with Shelley.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here. I've served this district for the past 15 years as a parent leader and 4 years as a trustee. While I'm proud of our many achievements, like our strategic directions, learner profile, and expanded college and career pathways, to name a few, I want to address some misinformation circulating in this campaign. Number 1, COVID funds were wasted. These funds were responsibly used for student and staff needs, addressing learning loss, behavioral challenges, racial tensions, and technology needs. The funds had strict spending guidelines and deadlines and couldn't be used for ongoing programs. 2, only board members with kids in school are effective and experience isn't necessary. Beyond my 2 children attending SRVUSD schools K through 12 and my 15 years of experience as a parent leader, my knowledge comes from engaging with hundreds of students, parents, and staff, giving me a broad perspective on district needs. Understanding board governance is crucial, and senior members are invaluable and bring vital knowledge that informs sound decision-making. 3, the budget deficit is due to poor financial management. The deficit is largely due to low state funding, increased costs, and declining enrollment. We're working to make cuts without impacting classrooms, an issue that many California districts face. 4, the district is going downhill and test scores prove it. Statewide, test scores haven't fully rebounded since COVID. Ours are comparable to neighboring districts, and we're committed to improvement. Niche, a national rating company of school districts across the U.S., rates SRVUSD A+, reflecting our strong overall performance.
Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you.
And Karen?
Thank you, everyone, for being here and for the AAUW and others for hosting tonight's event. I'm Karen Shumway. I'm a mother of 5 incredible kids, and my husband Matt and I have been married for almost 20 years. We moved here 11 years ago, and we love our community. My children have gone through our district. We currently have 2 at SRV, 2 at Charlotte Wood, and 1 at Greenbrook. I've been a room mom, field trip chaperone, sports coach, and weekly volunteer. I'm deeply involved in this community in many ways. I'm running for the school board to bring a mother's perspective to the conversation, build transparency between the district and families, restore trust in our fiscal management, focus on core academics, and create a safe environment for all students. I will do this by asking the tough questions and listening to the needs of parents, students, and the community. Tonight, we need to discuss real issues: the budget crisis, falling test scores, and declining enrollment. However, another topic that has come up several times from my opponent involves misinformation and lies. Shelley, multiple times you and your campaign have said that I am affiliated with a Moms for Liberty. As I have stated publicly several times, this is entirely false. I here have my Form 460, which is several pages showing every donation to my campaign. It is all from grassroots supporters, not special interest groups. I've never been associated with Moms for Liberty or any special interest group. In fact, Sukriti and I are the only two candidates up here not funded or supported by any such groups. Shelley, will you publicly acknowledge that these claims are untrue so we can focus on what really matters in this election? The truth is that my support comes from amazing, everyday individuals who I am lucky to call family, friends, neighbors, and fellow Danville citizens. Not some large machine focused on an agenda, but regular, everyday people in our community who are ready for change. My name is Karen Shumway. I am a mother, wife, homemaker, coach, friend, neighbor, and with your vote, the next Area 2 SRVUSD board member. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. I just want to make a comment. We generally ask candidates to refrain from any kind of personal attacks, not that this was an attack, but to sort of keep the level more general and low-key. So warning to you both, okay? Please, let's refrain from that. I don't think it's productive for the conversation, but thank you. Okay, so we have about 45 minutes to an hour for the, can you hear me? Sorry, for the questions, okay. So I'm gonna get through a number of questions. We've categorized them. We're gonna start with background and experience. And candidates, if any of you need to repeat a question as we go through, please let me know. So the first question is on background and experience. San Ramon Valley Unified School District manages an annual budget of $400 million. Understanding budget issues and constraints and the district's financial statements are an important part of the trustee's role. Can you describe your experience managing or overseeing budgets within SRVUSD or elsewhere in your experience? And we'll start with Area 2, and we start with you, Shelley.
So first and foremost, my job as a professional is a CFO of a small tech company.
Tiny little bit closer, just to make sure everybody can hear.
Okay. And so in that particular position, I handle all of the financials for a small tech company. And I'm on a daily basis, I'm dealing with numbers and budgets and employees and HR and things like that. As far as my experience in the district with budgets, for 3 years I was chair of the Parcel Tax Oversight Committee. And the Parcel Tax Oversight Committee oversees the spending of what is now known as Measure Q. And basically we go through the budget of the school district and we do an audit to make sure that the funds that are being paid by the taxpayers under that measure are spent in the right way. So I have a lot of familiarity from that. I was also vice chair of the Facilities Oversight Committee, and basically what that group does is a group of citizens that oversee the spending of the bonds for facilities for the school district. So again, there are many, many portions of the budget that we deal with when making sure that the bond funds are spent correctly. In addition to that, I've been president of the PTA at San Ramon Valley High School, managed the biggest event at that high school, which is Grad Night, which has a $100,000 budget.
Thank you, Shelley. There's only a minute and a half for the question, so I'm going to try to enforce that. Thank you, Shelley. Karen.
Thank you. Okay, so first of all, it is a huge budget that they're put in charge of, but education funding and budgets work very differently than even in the corporate world. And I honestly wouldn't trust any volunteer position to handle that, and that is why the district has paid professionals to crunch these numbers, and they present different information based on those numbers. And then as a board, I feel very confident in my ability to look at decisions and say, is this going to best benefit our students first in the classroom and teachers? But my specific training or experience with finances is right now, I've spent the last 17 years as a mom. We have 5 kids on one modest income, and we live in Danville. And we've been debt-free for several years because we take a very close look at the money coming in and the money going out. And you know, just like the district is a low-funded, you know, you've got limited funds, we do the same thing in our family, and we prioritize our needs over our wants and make sure we put the money where it's needed most. And for me, that is closest to the classroom with our students and our teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Area 3, we'll start with Laura.
Thank you. So first I'll start with before I was on the board. So prior to being on the board, I was on the LCAP committee for, I think, 4 years. While I was here, I was also on a couple of school site committees or councils. On the LCAP committee, you learn a lot about state funding. You learn about the LCFF. I think it's very important as a school board member we have CPAs, we have accountants that crunch the numbers, but we have to understand school funding. We have to understand how public education is funded. We also have to understand what our values are and make sure that we point the money to those values, right? That we make sure that we're really putting the money towards our teachers, towards our staff. So anyway, experience, sorry. So LCAP committee, I also was an Ed Fund president for a Mandarin immersion program in Southern California. Working on fundraising and on making sure that our money was used in the way that was in the best interest of those students that were in that program. Learning about where the restrictions are in terms of fundraising that you do at a school site and how that filters into the district and how approvals have to happen in order for purchases to be made and those types of things. I learned those things during that time. I also had worked for the San Mateo County Health and understand the RFP process, which is also an important part of public education funding. And now as a school board member, I've had lots of training and workshops on funding and budget oversight.
Thank you, Laura. Sukriti.
So going back to my experience in the corporate and the startup sector, I was responsible for delivering on projects where we had to deliver 50% cost margins on products that were being developed. So I do have experience in working on those projects, making sure that everything that we were putting in place is adding up to what we need to deliver. We always had cost cuts that needed to be made, and we also had to make sure that we were cutting the costs so that we were not in any way cutting the quality of the product. So I do have experience with that. However, I see this job as not, like everybody said, not about crunching the numbers ourselves, but being able to ask the right questions. Is the budget that we have, are the funds that are being used, are they being used in the right way? And I believe I can do that. Also, I want to make sure that the funds that we are spending, we want to make sure that those are being able to deliver on the results that we hope that they are delivering on. So with that, I feel I do have the knowledge and the experience to be able to do this job. Thank you.
Thank you, Sukriti. The next question is still in the category of experience and background. And we'll start with you, Sukriti. Describe your prior work or other experience separate from budgeting and finance and how it informs your thinking about the role of a district board member.
So I think how my experience has helped me, my professional experience, is my experience working. I worked for a CPG company, and we made food products. And when you think of making a food product, you have to make sure that you're addressing the needs of the consumer. And here, the consumer are the students and the parents, and the teachers help us get there. So making sure that we meet the needs of the students, that's number one. Also, like when you look at, when you make decisions, you want to make sure that your decisions are data-driven and you're looking at the right inputs. So having experience, done that in the corporate sector, I feel I can do the same here. Also, making sure that what we are developing, so going back to that example of developing food products, you want to make sure your product works. So again, in the school system, you want to make sure that the policies that you're putting in place, the programs that you're putting in place are being able to deliver on what you think they're going to deliver on. And also, you need to test that. You put a program in place, you want to make sure you're testing that and going back and seeing that is it doing what you want it to do.
Thank you, Sukriti. Laura.
In terms of work experience prior to being on the board and currently, I have a background in communications, and I know that, that the work that I've been able to do on the board has helped us with transparency and communication and building trust. I've been able to bring in my insight and experience with that as we discuss how we convey information, share information with our community. I also was faculty, taught a class, an online class at the Academy of Art, and understand the asynchronous learning that happens with online learning, and that helped in terms of how I helped us to navigate COVID and getting the students back into the classroom. I currently work at UC Berkeley, so I have insight into what higher education looks like and how students need to be prepared for higher education. And I'm also a parent, and I was raised in a multiracial family in a place where my siblings were the only minorities and really saw systemic marginalization happen in a time and place that was so not safe. And I've seen the repercussions of that as in my siblings as adults. I also have 4 kids who are diverse in and of themselves. I have athletes. I have a child who's autistic. I have a child who's part of the LGBT community. They each learn differently. They each find success differently. And that helps me to see how I can support every single student as an individual. So, thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Karen.
Thank you. My first experience working was growing up. My dad's a mechanic, and as a young girl, that's where I started. And I was put in charge of silly little tasks around the shop at first, doing things like that. And then as I got older, I was put in charge of customer service and helping the customers as they came in and out. But when I graduated high school, I took a job at a call center. My sister worked at the company. She helped me get a job, and I started there just as a basic employee in the call center, and quickly moved my way up and became the administrative assistant and project manager to the head of the department with over 200 people. I was the youngest one there, and I was one of the only few that was not bilingual, but my hard work and dedication to the customers helped me move up. And I worked there until Matt and I moved to Texas, where my first was born, and then ever since then I've dedicated my life to raising my children and have not worked outside of the home. However, I do manage our house with our 5 kids, and for the last several years I work at a food bank in Concord, where it's a giant warehouse, and I work there weekly until this campaign started. I hope to get back once the campaign is over, but I've learned a lot about the warehouse and the storage and stocking, and also dealing with customers there and providing food and services to those who are marginalized or cannot afford their needs, and supplying several other local organizations feeding the needy and things like that. So that's how I've spent my time.
Thank you, Karen. And Shelley.
So I have a very diverse background. It's not traditional, and it makes me very sensitive to the students who choose the path not taken, because I didn't go to a traditional college right away. After I graduated from high school, I worked, but I went back to college and I became a court reporter, and I did that for 10 years. I worked in the legal business. I ran my own business during that whole time. I worked in court, I took depositions, and I was exposed to a lot of different people and situations. When I got to a place where I wanted something different, I wanted to be more creative, so I went back to school again, and I got my esthetician's license, and I went to work for Nordstrom as a beauty director for about 4 years before I had my son. And I am a parent also, and I have children who are very, very different. My son was in special education almost his whole school career, and he gained a lot of experience and a lot of support that made him successful. And I'm very grateful to this school district for that. And he graduated from college, and he's now working. And my daughter was a vocal performance major in college because of the education she got and the exposure she got to the arts at San Ramon Valley High School. So recently I took the Masters in Governance course from the
Thank you,
CSBA.
Shelley. The time is up. Thank you. We're going to start with you for this next question, Shelley. This category is broader. Shelley, what do you believe are the biggest issues and challenges facing SRVUSD today, and how would you address those issues as a board member?
Well, the biggest issue that we're dealing with presently is our budget situation. And that is compounded by the fact that the state, because they're in a deficit, we are connected to them as far as what's in their general fund. And when there's not money in their general fund and they're in a deficit, then school districts are negatively affected because we don't get the same funding that we need. Also, the state is giving us a 1% COLA, which is a cost of living increase. And basically with our declining enrollment at this point, we will be getting less funding and not more. So we are not in a great situation. But one thing that I do want to say is that when I look around at the districts around us, and they're Livermore, Pleasanton, Oakland, Berkeley, San Francisco, all of them have deficits also. So this is a statewide program because of the funding from the state. What we are doing about it is that I and another board member are on the budget committee, and we are looking hard and very, very detailed into the budget to find ways to cut that will not affect the classroom.
Thank you, Shelley. Karen.
Okay, some of the top concerns I have from that we're facing right now are, obviously, like Shelley mentioned, our budget is in trouble. Our test scores are dropping in the last several years, a couple percent each year. Math is down 7%, science is down about 10%, and ELA is down 7% as well. And I know that compared to other places in California, maybe that's comparable, but California, last time I checked, was ranked last in the nation, and so I like to expand our comparison outside of the state into other places. We've had 4,000 drop in 4,000 students in enrollment, and that's a big part of our funding too. And as I've met thousands of people in the community, I've talked to so many families who have made the choice in the last 4 years to remove their children from the district because of dropping test scores, because of them being kept out of school longer, and other supports of their child's not getting in the school. So I think we need to look at those things, and to help those, I would, ask hard questions. I'm really excited about the email we got from our new superintendent today, and we have a new CBO that he seems really excited about, and they're really big on transparency and addressing our budget really strictly and hard. And so just to ask tough questions. I forgot, one of the things I see as a problem too is a teacher shortage, or retaining our amazing teachers that we have and love so much. And we need to figure out that with our limited budget that we stay competitive so that we can hang on to the teachers we have.
Thank you, Karen. Laura.
Budget. We need more money. And I also want to point out that while California is not great in terms of test scores, we're also one of the lowest funded states in public education, and that's a big part of the problem. So we need to have more money, and we're in a pretty intense budget shortfall right now, and so there's going to be a lot of work ahead in terms of trying to figure out where we squeeze every dollar, ensuring that we're providing what we want to, what we need to, but also what we want to provide for our students. COVID was something that changed the world. We're still recovering from COVID, not just healing, but we're recovering from it. And we have to acknowledge that, and we have to make sure that we put our efforts towards supporting our students as they build up their confidence in learning, and they recover from some of the emotional trauma that happened around COVID. It was traumatic for all of us. So I think it's important that we really look at interventions with our test scores. We know that our highest achievers are still achieving well. We need to disaggregate the data and ensure that we're capturing the students that are underperforming and really support them. Chronic absenteeism is also a big issue, and that's an effect of post-COVID as well, I believe. So really looking at that too.
Thank you, Laura. And Sukriti.
So definitely budget is top of mind right now, but I'll touch upon a couple of other things which are close to heart. The curriculum. So in our district, maybe it's not a district thing, maybe it's the education system, but the elementary school and the middle school tend to be made very easy for the students. And I understand that elementary school is you play and you learn, but middle school is when we should really be building foundations for our students. My daughter is a freshman now, and she is doing chemistry. The first topic she's learning is radioactivity. She's never been taught what an atom is. And that is a problem. We have a very high stress level at DVHS, and that's the high school in our area. And we need to understand where that stress is coming from. We need to peel layers of the onion, and we need to address those ground level issues. Having to learn radioactivity when you don't know what an atom is one of them. Every day we're getting messages from parents saying that they want to look for tutors for them. And I think if we just pace ourselves better, we'll be able to get there.
Thank you, Sukriti. Next category is academic outcomes. San Ramon Valley School District has a reputation for having great schools. However, outcomes on academic metrics have been uneven. The percentage of high school students who are reading at a proficient level in our district ranges from 69% at one high school to 89% at another. What is your view of these outcomes and similar metrics across our district, and how would you seek to address them as a board member? And we're going to start with you, Sukriti.
I think I definitely see that even in our district, there's different areas and there's different demographics and different levels of the school. I think I go back to how do you make this better? I think you go back to building the foundations at the right place. Starting in elementary school, make sure we are giving them that rigor. Going into middle school, make sure you're building on the rigor, and when they get into high school, they will be well prepared. And I think we're not doing a good job of that, which is essentially doing a disservice to our kids. We're underestimating their ability. We need to be able to give them more homework. We need to be able to give them, options and just build on their capabilities in their foundational years. And I think if we are able to do that, we will be able to improve the outcomes. And in the areas that are doing better, I'll have to say it's a lot of times it's coming down to the parents. There are parents who are spending a lot of time filling in those gaps at home, whether it's through tutors or their own time, but we could be doing that in school.
Thank you, Sukriti. And Laura.
We have a lot of work to do. We know that. I think it's important to understand that we have to teach our students to learn how to learn. So often education in this day and age, it almost feels like it's transactional. It's like we go to elementary school to get into to get into the best classes in middle school, to get into the best classes in high school, to get into the best colleges, to get the best job, right? What about going to school to learn, to really learn and to find that love of learning and to be able to figure stuff out on your own, not just learn, drill, and kill to get to the next test, to get to the next assessment. And that's where our strategic direction of deep learning and innovation comes in, making sure that we are providing opportunities for our students to be able to become excited about what they're learning, to have some autonomy and independence around what they're doing and the projects they do, how they're collaborating, teaching those critical skills, which is a part of our learner profile that we developed these last couple of years along with our strategic directions. And that's, in my opinion, focusing on those pathways, on those ways of sparking a student's interest, teaching them to be lifelong learners and to be able to navigate the future, to be able to figure stuff out because the world's going to change. We know that our kindergartens are going to graduate in a world that is going to be completely different from anything we can even imagine. And we need to teach them how to navigate that And so that's in my opinion, that's the solution to really being able to help our students thrive.
Thank you, Laura. Karen.
I really like what Laura said about giving kids options, right? All of my 5 kids are all very different. They take different interests. Some things come more naturally to some of them than others, and so I really like that and agree with that. I also think, you know, when public education started, Horace Mann started it because it used to be the rich. The rich were educated because they were paying tutors, and they were paying tutors to teach their kids what they wanted their children to learn. They were very involved in it. But Horace Mann started it because he wanted all children to be educated. And sometimes with this discrepancy, I wonder if we're kind of going back to that. And it's the rich, it's those who can afford tutors constantly that help supplement these children's learning. So I think that might be one thing, and we need to figure out a way how to make it more uniform across the district for the schools, for all kids to have access to support on campus, whether or not their families can afford additional tutoring. And so I also think it's great, a new curriculum has been introduced recently for our elementary age students, their reading curriculum, and I'm really hopeful that that will help them get a stronger foundation young with their reading and writing and everything. But I think there's a lot of different answers, and I think it would be nice to hear community feedback or student feedback so that we can get more answers on how to best help the individual students, because there's going to be a lot of varying answers, I believe.
Thank you, Karen. And Shelley.
So some of the things we've done since COVID because of the learning loss, and this is basically what we're talking about, is trying to identify struggling students. So our MTSS liaisons who were on after COVID did an incredible job, and I was in schools and actually saw it personally. Identifying struggling students and helping teachers to know how to help them. And that had tremendous results. Since then, with our funding, we don't have that exact model in place, but because that was done, that is still being done now by other individuals, other teachers. Reaching struggling students early is the key to being able to help them to be successful. We have screeners that we use regularly, and those screeners help to tell us which students need the extra help. There are also many school sites who have tutoring programs that are free before and after school. So parents, if you're wondering about how to get help for your students, if you don't want to pay a tutor, many school sites have extra help, as well as access periods where students can meet with teachers and others to get help in their academics.
Thank you, Shelley. The next question is related, so feel free not to use up the whole time unless you feel like you need it. What specific steps do you propose for changing or strengthening the district's academic programs? We'll start with you, Shelley.
We are always trying to improve our academic programs for our students, and we have added, as Karen mentioned, many curriculums in different grade levels just in this year. There's probably 6 or 8 that we have put in place just in this year. Also, our learner profile, which is one of the most important things that I think has come out of this district in many years, because the learner profile prepares our students for the world that they're going to meet when they leave our doors. And that profile is about what kinds of qualities and abilities and tools that we want them to have. Critical thinking, creative contributors, intentional collaborators, adaptable learners, and effective communicators. And those were born out of a panel that we had of all kinds of different employers from all different kinds of companies, all different subjects. And what they told us was, we want employees, we want people to come into our organization who have these qualities. This is the most important thing. So along with academic excellence comes all the tools and the qualities that we want our students to have as they go out into the world.
Thank you, Shelley. Karen.
Can you repeat the question, please, Janet?
Yes. What specific steps do you propose for changing or strengthening the district's academic programs?
Okay, I think it's really important to work with our teachers and to communicate closely with them and make sure they're getting the support that they need and have what they need in their classrooms. I also think it's important to talk to the community and get their input as well. And I love the idea of introducing a variety of options and programs to the different school sites, you know, different arts or music, robotics, trades, etc. Just because I think that sometimes a kid might not feel competent or that they're smart enough, but they might not have found their thing yet or what they're passionate about and what they love. And I know this is a complicated thing to address among all the schools because we're all on different bell schedules and stuff. Some of our high schools have like a welding program or a mechanics program, while others don't. And if we can't get that on all campuses, if there was a way to streamline our bell schedules or have some sort of opportunity for students to go from one campus to another, to engage in these as well, to help them find what they're passionate about. And I think when you enjoy what you're doing, you naturally do it better. So I think that's a start.
Thank you, Karen. Laura.
So we had one-time dollars from COVID, and we were able to implement the MTSS liaison structure, which is multi-tiers of student support, where our liaisons were able to go in and actually intervene, whether it was academically or behavioral, with individual students who were struggling, who needed additional support. We do not have the money to fund that right now, and we saw the difference that it was making in our schools and with our students, and so money would be the answer to how we can help support our students for their academic success. Without money, I think we can look at engagement. We can look at ways to really allow a student to see themselves as successful, and that will spark them to learn more deeply. We have a welding program that started 2 years ago, and we had the privilege of having 3 students in that program come to our board meeting in September. And what they said was, I was not interested in school, I hated school until I started this program. It's programs like that, it's opportunities like that for our students that will allow our students to be able to become more interested in education, and to be able to find passion in what they enjoy and what they want to learn about. So,
Thank you, Laura. And Sukriti.
So I grew up in India, and I have the benefit of having seen 2 systems of education. And it just breaks my heart to see how little we teach here compared to what I learned when I was growing up. And so the first thing I would say is, let's look at our curriculum. Let's see if we can bring it up to the world standard. Because right now we are far, far behind. I hate to say it, but that's the truth. We want our children to be prepared to be able to compete with other kids who are going to come here and compete with them for jobs. So if we don't do this, we're just essentially doing them a disservice. We also want to make sure that our curriculum flows. You cannot have students who have never heard of an atom be learning about radioactivity. There has to be a connection. We need to make our curriculum flow. Start from elementary school through middle school, like just see what have the students learned. Let it flow in a organized, systematic manner. I know a lot of parents are just craving a standardized system with some standard textbook or some study material which all students can access. And then lastly, I would say I feel co-curricular activities, we can do a little bit better with that. Make sure that we don't have tryouts and auditions in middle school, and just give access to everyone.
Thank you, Sukriti. Okay, so we're going to move into diversity and inclusion. And we're going to start with you, Sukriti. Nationally, according to data from census.gov, Contra Costa County is among the top 20 counties in the country with the highest diversity index. Should district schools do anything that aims to teach about or otherwise reflect our students' racial, socioeconomic, or cultural diversity? If they should, what steps should the district be taking to advance those goals? And Sukriti, again, we'll start with you.
So I think we live in a world where, or we live in a area where there is a lot of diversity, and that's a wonderful thing because you get so many experiences which you cannot get in any other part of the world. I have seen more of India here in living in California than I ever did in New Delhi, India. So I think we need to appreciate that. And if we can teach our children about their roots, there's the ethnic studies program. If we can, that's a wonderful program. If I would love for our children to be able to learn about their history, about their roots. And if you can learn that about other cultures as well, it just lets you appreciate other cultures and learn more about them. It just makes you, just overall a more smart person. So I would say definitely, teaching our children about different parts of the world, different histories, is a wonderful way to, just promote that diversity.
Thank you, Sukriti. Laura.
We need to diversify the curriculum to reflect the diversity of the world. We need to make sure that, that our students see themselves and see their neighbors and see the outside world and what they're learning. We need to not limit those opportunities for education. We need to make sure that our students, that the adults too, that we celebrate diversity, that when we see something different, that we want to learn more about it. We don't want to step back and pull back on our heels and react to it in a way that whether it's fear or uncomfortableness or I don't know what. We need to be able to allow our students from the very beginning to understand that different is good. And by doing that, we can make the world better. They can make the world better. I think they are making the world better. And we need to support that. So I think it's incredibly important for us to look to our students to and we do. We meet with our affinity groups, with our BSUs and our GSAs and various other affinity groups and ask them what they want to see in the curriculum, how they're feeling when they're being taught about their ethnicity or their experience, and support what's in how they see themselves in a way so that we can share that with the rest of the community in the curriculum. So thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Karen.
I love diversity. When Matt and I were first married, we moved around quite a bit, and an opportunity that my older kids have is we've lived in 4 states and 3 countries. And even our time here in San Ramon and Danville, our old neighbors used to be above us were Afghan refugees, and they would bring us food and teach us about, why they had to leave Afghanistan and come here. And on our street now, we've got just such a diverse street we live on with friends from all over the country, and I absolutely love that. I think that when you're around people with different backgrounds, different cultures, different religions, different ideas about things, that it actually builds a beautiful community, and you learn from each other and you grow in your compassion and perspective. And I think that if we, with this new ethnic studies course, if we did it right, it would be phenomenal. And I think that we all learn and grow from each other in our differences and learn how to love and respect each other and why we are the way we are, the way we were raised, our culture and everything. And so I think if we focus on doing this right in a compassionate, supportive way, that our children will really benefit from that.
Thank you, Karen. And Shelley.
Because we are so diverse, it is so important that our students from a very early age come to understand that there are others that are different than them and that they can accept them and be tolerant and compassionate. What we're doing in this district is we already started an ethnic studies program. It's an elective at this point. Soon it is a graduation requirement soon. And I've met with them a couple times, the students in the ethnic studies group, and they all come together and they talk about the issues, things that concern them, things that they've learned from each other. It's very, very powerful elective at this point. We are mandated by the state to have a diverse curriculum, and we have been working hard in the last few years especially to make sure that we bring all walks of life, all ethnicities into our curriculum as well as our books. We also have worked in with the HR department to make sure that we try as much as we can to diversify our staff so that our students can see themselves in the staff that are teaching them. I spent time with the Black Student Union, with the GSA, with a lot of our other affinity groups who also spend time together, and it makes for a great community when all of those groups come together and talk to each other.
Thank you, Shelley. Next question and new category is student social and emotional well-being. Can you hear me? Yes, okay. While at school, our children are learning not only academic subjects, but also how to make friends, how to deal with conflict, and how to cope with challenges. Describe your view of the role that schools should play in the social and emotional wellness of our students, including the issues or programs relating to social and emotional wellness that you think the district should focus on. And we'll start with you, Shelley.
This has been a really important subject to me because it's very well known at this point with all the studies that have been done, and we can also just look at our own students to know that if they're not emotionally, mentally feeling good, balanced, and that they don't feel like that they belong at their prospective schools, that they don't learn well. So that's why this has become such an important part of our work in the district. All of our high schools have wellness centers now, which are staffed by social workers, and I have heard feedback from many of our students that how beneficial that has been to them in supporting them in their academic success as well as emotionally. We also have the Discovery Center, who is a counseling center that works with some of our students. Last year, 6,400 students were helped by the Discovery Center SKIP counselors. So we have facilities and people available to help students when they're struggling. I also advocated for a peer counseling class at Monte Vista High School, which has started this year, which is students helping students. And I'm very, very excited about that. It's also started at California High School, and it's been done in many other school districts successfully.
Thank you, Shelley. Next is Karen.
I think this is something the district's really been focusing on, and it continues to improve, and we can always take what we're doing well and do even better. I think it's important for everyone to feel included and safe and wanting to show up at school. If you're not even able to get to school, that's a really hard spot to be. But I think like I said, we're moving in the right direction. We've got social workers at the high school, some at the middle schools. There are some intern counselors spread out through the district. I also, talking to my friends that have children with severe special needs, I have a couple of friends with kids in the district who are nonverbal, and I love talking to them, and we're really close, so we spend a lot of time together, but it's really neat for these students to be introduced into mainstream classrooms when possible, or athletics, and it's a benefit to both students. We have a really good friend with Down syndrome. She graduated from SRV this last year, and we were at a party once, and there were some other kids that started making fun of her, and when we were leaving, I was talking to my children like, hey, did you see this happening? Did you see, they were making fun of her for the way she spoke? And my son said, or for being different, and my son said, how is she different? And I think that is such a beautiful thing, that when our kids are around each other and we're not constantly pointing out how we're different to one another, but we're just naturally together and including each other, then the kids naturally gravitate to that.
Thank you, Karen. And Laura.
There's a happy kid. Our kids deserve to be happy, healthy, and safe. I think that, when we talk about COVID, we saw our students in the way that they learned. They were in our homes, and it kind of lifted the veil around our own children's mental health and their social and emotional well-being. And so it allowed us all as a community to understand the value of really supporting our students and teaching them about their feelings, teaching them about how they can walk through this world and they can navigate the struggles, the burdens that we all see as adults. We need to make sure that our children are prepared for that as they walk through this world and through our communities. And so we've been able to, again, with one-time dollars, we were able to commit to ongoing with our wellness centers and our specifically our counselors at our elementary schools to be able to support our students. PTA's been doing a lot of parent ed nights around supporting our students. We need to make sure that we see them, that we support them, and that we allow them to be able to access the best education they can have. So, thank you.
Thank you, Laura. And on to Sukriti.
So, yeah, like everybody said, the social, emotional, and mental health of our students is critical. We all want them to grow up to be successful, but not at the cost of their mental health. We want our kids to learn, we want them to go to good colleges, but not at the cost of their mental health. When you think about going out and working, it's 50% is knowing your subject matter, and then the 50% is being able to socialize and being just comfortable being who you are. So we need to have our children grow up with good self-esteem and be strong and resilient. We have a lot of programs in place. Right now we have wellness centers and we have counselors, but I think we also need to understand a little bit of the ground reality. A lot of times students are not comfortable going and utilizing these resources, and that is something we need to do better. Just understand like what is stopping them, what are the hindrances. A lot of times kids feel it's a stigma to go and talk to a counselor. It should not be. So maybe if that is not, the wellness centers or counselors are not working, maybe we need to find a different approach and have them still be able to provide those services to the students, but in a different way.
Excuse me. Thank you, Sukriti. The next question has to do with school safety. Safety in our schools is an issue for many parents. What are your approaches for helping keep our schools safer for both students and staff? And we'll start with you, Sukriti.
So I think we all need to have safe schools. It's not something we can afford to go wrong with. So having the infrastructure that keeps us safe, having the fences and the cameras and all that is absolutely critical. But I think what is most important is having that connection between parents and teachers and students so that when there are red flags, we catch them. And if we go back and look at any instance of, a school shooting or, any instance like that, there were always red flags, which when you do a post-mortem, you realize, oh yeah, this happened and that happened, and they were just clues that we missed. So that is something we cannot afford to go wrong with. We have to be able to find those red flags, and when we find one, we need to follow it all the way through. That this is just something very critical that we just cannot allow to happen, and we don't want to do a post-mortem and go back and say, oh, we missed following up on this.
Thank you, Sukriti. Laura.
In this day and age, safety, unfortunately, is something that we worry about as parents and that our kids worry about from the moment they step into a classroom, because they have seen on the news, they have seen in culture, the mass shootings that happen, whether it's preschools, kindergarten, I don't even want to go there. Anyway, it's awful. And that's something that we as a community, as a culture, need to shift. Set that aside. We can talk about our school district specifically. We are very fortunate that we have a wonderful partnership with our two police forces, Danville and San Ramon, and our first responders. And our school district, our school sites are able to partner with them, whether it's with SROs or if a call comes in, a threat comes in, they're right there at the beginning. They're able to investigate. They're able to figure out what's going on, support the students. We have a communication system in place where we're able to let our parents know what's happening at every step of the way, which I think is helpful in terms of alleviating the trauma that we all feel around safety in our education systems. And then inclusion. We have to be able to include our students so that they feel like they're safe, so that they feel like they can go to school and they can be comfortable. So, thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Karen.
This is a very heavy subject, and it's hard to answer, but I agree, and I'm grateful. We've had 2 different experiences, and thankfully they ended up being nothing. But when my daughter was at the preschool at Monte Vista, I showed up to pick her up once, and the school was on lockdown because of a threat. And there were cops out, and they were pulling out their guns out of the, and I was, what is going on? And thankfully it ended up not being anything. But when my oldest was in kindergarten, that's when Sandy Hook happened, and my friends lost their niece in that shooting. And I remember the reality of just thinking that could be my daughter at once, because the day before Sandy Hook happened, I got a call from her elementary school saying she did not make it to school. And I put my daughter on the bus that morning, and then I was getting a call that she wasn't there. And it was a miscommunication, everything was fine. And then a couple years ago at the high school, there was a shooting threat, and there was social media things going out, and again, it was a false alarm. But I will say I'm grateful with our district and the efforts they have and the communication they have with the local police and first responders. I think that we need to focus on the mental health of the individual students. And when we were at the high school debate, I just really stressed with these kids that not only if you see something, you say something. We need to communicate. If you see something's not going right, please communicate it. But also personally, like if you're going through something, like I plead with you to talk to your parents. And we need to build transparency from students to parents and community, our neighbors. We all just need to work together to avoid this at all costs. And start there.
Thank you, Karen. And Shelley.
As Laura alluded to, we do have an amazing relationship with our police departments. And whenever there's anything going on, whatever, even if it's something that seems like it's not that big of a deal, they're always there. We also have SROs in our high schools so that there is somebody there in case right away, in case there's any issues that come up, and they generally have really good relationships with the students, and so they're able to be very effective in keeping things in a good place. We also have doors that lock from the inside, which a lot of school districts do not have. We also have put fencing around almost all of our schools at a huge cost, but definitely worth it. We're still working on a couple schools that share space with parks and things like that. But all of our, most all of our campuses are locked, and you can't get in unless you go through the office. So that is something that's new in the last few years. We have extensive, and I mean pages and pages and pages, of safety plans for every single school site that covers any imaginable thing that could happen and what the procedures are to take care of it. So that's the physical part. There's also the emotional part, the emotional safety that we want for our students, and that's why we stress the social emotional learning starting in elementary school.
Thank you, Shelley. And it's time for our final question, so we have time at the end for closing statements. This is a category we have not spoken about before, and Shelley, we're going to start with you. It has to do with cell phones. What are your thoughts about banning student cell phones use during school hours?
So interesting question for me, because I brought this to the administration before the legislature and the governor took action, because I met with a group of parents who were very, very concerned. They were elementary school parents, very concerned about cell phone use even at that grade level. So if you saw the board meeting or listened to the board meeting last night, we're starting that conversation. And what's going to be important about that, regardless of what my opinion is, which I will make known, engaging all of our stakeholders, our students, our parents at every level, our administrators, and also, most importantly, our teachers, to come up with a plan to reduce the distraction and the damage that is done when students have their phones all day in class all the time. So I am a proponent of a new plan for this, and I want to hear from our community before I make any decisions, but my decision will be based on what I feel and the input that I get is best for our students.
Thank you, Shelley. Karen.
I love this question, and my kids would not agree with my answer probably, but one of the things I loved when we were taking the tour at the high school is they had these phone caddies in all of the rooms. You know, they're starting to get accustomed to this new mandate, I guess, coming through. But what I loved is when I walked into the classrooms who were implementing it, that the teachers, they were numbered, all the students, and they had their phones in there. My husband and I are both reading The Anxious Generation right now, and all of the science and studies shows the damage of constant distraction, being on screens. My kids don't get cell phones until they're in high school, and it's almost a need at that point. It's hard for them to get through their day at high school without it because of their classwork and things, which I hated. So I am fully supportive of asking kids to put their phones away, turn them off when they get to school. I personally hate social media for my children too, and have bribed my kids that if they can graduate without it, there are different rewards and things. But I do support the science behind the damage that screens and distractions, especially in school, have on our kids' brains and their mental health. Let's be real. Like, if we could eliminate social media from all of these teenagers, I think so much of our mental health crisis would immediately be almost solved.
Thank you, Karen. Laura.
So sometimes the state makes us do things that we don't think is in the best interest of our kids. I think this is something that is in the best interest of our kids, and if we didn't have the state mandating it, it would be much more difficult for us to be able to move forward with, so I'm grateful for that. There will be a process. It was on the agenda last night, and there will be a process in terms of us implementing it. The law says by July 1st of 26, we're hoping for the beginning of next academic year. I don't know what that looks like. I know that we need to look at the different grade levels and how cell phone use impacts and how we can manage and help support removing them from the students' hands. I also think we need to look at the fact that we are, I think, still in an informational age. Maybe it's shifted to something else, but maybe it's an AI age. But we need to talk about media health. That was something that Kelly Hilton brought up at our meeting last night, and really use this as an opportunity to also help our students to learn how to use cell phones and any new technology that's going to be coming forward down the pipeline that we are, again, completely unaware of at this point, but we know that it's a fast-paced world. And so how can we set up structures and a way for our students to be able to have the supports needed to remove cell phones in an appropriate way, but then also learn how to manage their use when they're not being restricted by them, so they have that autonomy and control in how to use media. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. And Sukriti.
I think it's an absolute no-brainer. You should not have cell phones while in class. I was so heartened to see at our back-to-school night at DVHS to see those phone caddies where they could keep their cell phones before they entered the class. I heard from my daughter a lot of teachers take attendance looking at those cell phone caddies now. We send our children to school to learn. We don't send them to school to make TikTok videos. And I don't know what's so hard to understand. When your teacher is teaching, you need to look at the teacher and you need to listen to the teacher, so not at your cell phone. So to me, it's an absolute no-brainer. And I really like what Laura also said about, you want to stay ahead of the technology. Right now it's cell phones, it could be something else, computers with AI, whatever. You have to stay ahead of the technology and, just use your common sense. If it doesn't work or if it is distracting from the business of learning, then, you need to be able to do it. You don't have to wait for a mandate to come through from, the state or anybody else. If it's interfering with learning, it should not be there in the classroom.
Thank you, Sukriti. And isn't that amazing? Our last question, they all agreed to the response. Wow. So this is a little out of order, but I'd like to give a round of applause to our 4 candidates here. They've worked really hard tonight. Okay, we're now moving to closing statements. Closing statements are 2 minutes each. We are going to start with closing statements with Laura.
Thank you. Thank you to the San Ramon Valley PTA, the American Association of University Women, and the League of Women Voters for this opportunity to discuss the issues our district faces, and thank you to everyone for coming. As a parent and a district leader, I believe that it is imperative that we inspire all of our wonderfully individual students to see a bright future for themselves, that we provide an excellent education with a high level of rigor that prepares and empowers our students for whatever they choose as their next step after high school and adult transition. We need to continue to be at the forefront of deep learning and innovation, teaching our students to learn how to learn so they can be prepared for an ever-changing future. We have to support our students' social and emotional well-being and their mental health so they can be happy, healthy, and fulfilled. And we need to ensure authentic and truly supportive equity and inclusion for every single child, even when the adults in the room are uncomfortable. I believe that we all want this for our students. During my first term, you have seen me ask the questions that need to be asked, use my voice to uplift and center our amazing students, listen to our staff, students, parents, caregivers, and community members, learn from their experiences and perspectives, and bring the insights that I gather into our boardroom as I discuss the issues with my fellow board members and make tough decisions. This work ethic, my accomplishments in my first term, and what we discussed today reflect my dedication to our educational community. They highlight my passion for inclusive and supportive education for all. And they show the experience I will bring to the board with the second term as we strive to make our great schools even better and navigate the future shifts in funding. I am a proven advocate for our students and their educational experience and would be grateful for your vote. You can learn more about me and my campaign at votelaurabrat.com, and you can follow me on Instagram at trustybrat. Thank you, and Facebook. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Secreti.
With 2 kids in the district here, I have skin in the game. I want to make sure that our schools do well. I need our schools to do well. I don't work at a superficial level. I understand the problems, and I work to bring meaningful changes. I know how to lead teams with diverse thoughts and come up with holistic solutions in a timeline that is meaningful and realistic. My professional background gives me a very strong and unique perspective for this job. I know how to lay plans for the future and set goals, the importance of getting all the stakeholders in the room to develop solutions, the importance of questioning why things are the way they are, the importance of testing and ensuring the solutions that we have put into place are really working, and the importance of using a data-driven approach to making decisions. I know if given the opportunity, I will make the schools better for all of us. Our children will know who the current Secretary General of the United Nations is, and maybe even what a vernier calipers is. I ask for your support and vote. You can learn more about me at Sehgal for SRVUSD.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Secreti. And Karen.
This campaign started with friends and teachers asking me to get involved because they respected how I approached various difficult situations and conversations. My initial reaction was to graciously decline because I have no interest in politics. However, over the next few days, I could not shake the feeling that I needed to get involved and be a voice for others. I felt a strong desire growing in me to take a leap of faith and provide a service to our community where I was needed. And I'll be honest, this has been extremely hard. But now, after months of talking with thousands of people in our community, I see more than ever the community's desire and hope for change. This campaign quickly went from a small group of family, friends, and teachers supporting me to a large and passionate grassroots campaign that has spread to our entire community. This is a testament to me of the value our community sees in our schools and our district and their desire for parents to be involved in the education of their children. I love this community. I believe in this community, and I believe we will only get stronger as we work together for our students. If you give me the honor of your vote, we can make our schools stronger, safer, and more transparent. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen and Shelley.
As a trustee for the past 4 years and a parent leader for 15 years, serving on several district committees, I've gained a great deal of knowledge and understanding of how the school district works. I've dedicated my time to making sure all students in the San Ramon Valley Unified School District receive the support they need to strive. I've championed initiatives that prioritize mental health by increasing access to counseling and opening wellness centers in all our high schools. I've also been a strong advocate for expanding college and career pathways and ensuring our students are prepared for both higher education and the workforce. As we continue to face financial challenges, we need experienced and educated members on the Board of Education in order to make difficult budget decisions that protect the classroom and ensure responsible fiscal stewardship. I believe in fostering an inclusive, equitable environment where all students feel valued, and I'm proud of my role in expanding student voice by advocating for a student board member and the creation of a student senate. Re-electing me means voting for experience, commitment, and a forward-thinking vision for our district. I'm committed to working collaboratively with parents, students, teachers, and the community to ensure we remain one of the best districts in California. Together, we can keep building a strong foundation for our children's future. I ask for your vote to continue serving as your trustee for Area 2. Thank you all for coming, and thank you to the PTA, AAUW, and League of Women Voters, and Janet Hoy for being our moderator.
Thank you very much, Shelley. Yeah, we could give him another round of applause if you want. Absolutely. So I'd just like to thank the Council of PTAs for hosting this. This was a great venue, and we even had a few very future middle schoolers out there who I was hearing and watching wander around in the back, which was lovely. So thank you all for coming. It is so gratifying to have a room full of people who care about our educational system, care about our kids, and care about our communities. That's really what it's all about. So it wouldn't be the League unless I reminded you, you've all got your ballots. If you need answers to questions about candidates or any of those 10 really pesky, some of them, ballot propositions, please go to vote411.org. That is the League of Women Voters, nonpartisan, meaning we don't support or oppose candidates, electronic information system that will give you information on the candidates in their own words. We don't change anything, even the punctuation and grammar, information on the ballot propositions, all of that kind of stuff, where to vote, how to vote, what's on your ballot, et cetera. Vote411.org. It is your one-stop shop for all your election needs. So please get your ballots in. Very important election at all levels, including this one. Again, thank you all. We have 4 great candidates here, and I'm proud to be the moderator of the forum. So thank you all, and happy voting.